Now, a U.S. Congress panel on Thursday said that former President Donald Trump was at the heart of a sprawling conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential elections. The panel is tasked with investigating the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol last year and over the course of 2 hours laid out in gripping detail the worst of what happened last year. The panel also featured never-before-seen videos from the day of the attack, weaving numerous footage of the violence to establish a timeline here of the violence. The clips show rioters breaking windows, pushing through barricades. Officers can be heard shouting to hold the line as they physically clash with the rioters here. Some people, specifically identified as Proud Boys by captions written on the screens. Earlier this week, the Proud Boys leader and 4 lieutenants were charged with seditious conspiracy. The primetime proceedings also showed videotaped depositions from some of Trump's closest allies and family members, all saying that they did not believe the former president's claims that the election was stolen. Here's Trump's daughter Ivanka Trump saying that she believed former Attorney General Bill Barr and his analysis that the presidential election had been fair.
How did that affect your perspective about the election when Attorney General Barr made that statement?
It affected my perspective. I respect Attorney General Barr. So I accepted what he was saying.
The committee also revealed testimonies from White House officials at the time who said that Trump did not want the U.S. Capitol attack to stop and angrily resisted his own advisors. He also thought his own Vice President, Mike Pence, deserved to be hanged.
I've been in 2 elections. I won them both, and the second one I won.
There's no doubt that President Trump was well aware of the violence as it developed. White House staff urged President Trump to intervene and call off the mob. Not only did President Trump refuse to tell the mob to leave the Capitol, he placed no call to any element of the United States government to instruct that the Capitol be defended. He did not call his Secretary of Defense on January 6th. He did not talk to his Attorney General. He did not talk to the Department of Homeland Security. President Trump gave no order to deploy the National Guard that day, and he made no effort to work with the Department of Justice to coordinate and deploy law enforcement assets. But Vice President Pence did each of those things.
The panel also called U.S. Capitol Police Officer Carolyn Edwards, who testified and became the face of the violence against law officers that day. She recalled in horrific detail what she saw inside the Capitol Hill on the 6th of January.
I can just remember my breath catching in my throat because what I saw was just a war scene. It was something like I'd seen out of the movies. I couldn't believe my eyes. There were officers on the ground, they were bleeding, they were throwing up. I mean, I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood. I was catching people as they fell. It was carnage. It was chaos. I can't even describe what I saw.
Drawing on the findings of their nearly year-long investigation, the Select Committee will attempt to establish the sequence of events that left over 100 police officers injured as they clashed with a mob of pro-Trump supporters. 9 people were killed in the riots, which the panel said put America's constitutional democracy at risk. Hundreds have been charged in connection with the events of 6th of January, including some with seditious conspiracy. The hearings will resume next week. And for more on this, we were earlier joined by our correspondent Benji Iyer from Washington, D.C. This is what he had to say.
Well, the committee was very careful in their approach to this. They were trying not to associate Donald Trump supporters at large with the action, I guess, so that they avoided being branded as calling those supporters naive or any sort of similar term. They particularly pointed out specific far-right groups, for instance, the Proud Boys, who were present that day as well, and they isolated them and showed that they had looked around the Capitol site beforehand, clearly had some sort of premeditated idea as to what they wanted to happen, and made the argument that those particular groups were inspired by Donald Trump's language, and it wasn't something that just happened organically on the day, that this was a particular concerted, coordinated effort to try to subvert democracy. As you well note, Donald Trump and his supporters may very well decide that that is not their opinion. That is not the case. Again, it comes back to our argument about America being divided. But ultimately, the case that was put forward by Democrats, and as I say, the two Republicans on that panel as well, is that Donald Trump's language that day and in weeks prior directly incited the violence that we saw that was acted out by thousands of people on site, but more specifically those far-right groups, including Proud Boys, who had sort of done a reconnaissance of that area shortly before, having not even attended Donald Trump's rally. And so it's been weeks and months, the Democrats argue, of Donald Trump building up this rhetoric about the election being stolen from him that then was taken by those groups and put into force.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.